Aloha and welcome. In this video, we're going to be talking about WLAN design, wireless local area network design. So one of the things that we do to figure out what our needs are is we set up site surveys. So a site survey is the process of evaluating the radio frequency behavior to achieve roaming, simplify association, and satisfy your security requirements. So what is roaming, first of all? Roaming is the ability of a wireless device to go and seamlessly maintain its association. When we're talking about association, we mean its ability to discover and connect to different access points in your WLAN. So if you're going, let's say, from one room to another, and as you go further away from your access point, you'll be able to switch over to other access points seamlessly and keep your association on the network. So that's what we call roaming, and association is just your ability to, discover and connect to the WLAN. So we use site surveys before, during, and after we deploy our wireless equipment. You have to maintain it. So as you add things to the network, you need to do site surveys. And site surveys, they rely on a combination of hardware, software, and established procedures to ensure that a WLAN performs as expected. You can use Wi-Fi analyzers, and those are software-based tools that they're used during a site survey to evaluate the radio frequency behavior. So Wi-Fi analyzer can be used in an independent tool, or it can be part of a site survey application suite. You can build heat maps, and a heat map is essentially included with most Wi-Fi analyzers to visually represent what your WLAN's coverage is. So it's like a map that shows you all the different areas and where you've got strong connectivity and weak connectivity. So when we're talking about this environment, another thing we talk about is the WLAN controllers. So a WLAN controller, a wireless LAN controller, it's a network device that controls the Wi-Fi access points in an enterprise network. So you've got a WAP, a WAP, a wireless access point, is like, it looks kind of like often it looks just like what do you call it, a smoke alarm. So it'll look like a smoke alarm, but it's providing you your wireless access connectivity there. And as that wireless access point, it's good for so many feet, and it can only go through so many walls and things like that. So you need to use multiple ones in a larger environment. So in order to control all these things, you need a wireless LAN controller. So these come in two different types of deployments. One is a centralized deployment, and that's when you've got a lot of buildings and networks that are close together. You have it centralized, and that's going to allow for easier upgrading and advanced wireless functionality. And those are those controllers are based on site, installed in a centralized location. The other one that you have is a distributed deployment, and as you can see, contrasting with the previous one, that's going to be for somewhere where you've got a lot of spread out infrastructure. So that's going to converge your wired and your wireless onto an access switch, and it performs both the switch and the wireless controller roles. So Wi-Fi access points provide the independent distributed intelligence, but they work together to provide the control mechanisms. So something to think about when you're looking at Wi-Fi access point and WLAN controller configuration, before you deploy any of your equipment, each Wi-Fi access point and the controller should be configured for security. So the different things you need to do, one is you need to ensure that default settings and passwords are disabled. I can't tell you how many break-ins and cyber attacks have been successful because people left the default passwords and the user names on there. You can look up these things. So if you go out there and look up Netgear, look at your router, and then go and look up on the internet, Google essentially default password for, and then your router, it'll have that out there. And you can try these things, and people succeed in doing that. So you always want to make sure that you change your default settings and your passwords. Also, you want to update the firmware and install software patches if they're available on your equipment before you send it out there, because they do update them to patch security vulnerabilities. So go out there and get all of your firmware and software updates that you can for your equipment. And then you can also need to set up an isolated virtual LAN, VLAN, for remote management, because you want to manage these access points, but you don't want anybody to be able to attack the access points. So you want to have it isolated. So you'll set up a virtual LAN to do that. So in talking about the design of WLANs, we have a number of terms here that you need to learn. In that, first of all, you need to know what a service set is. A service set is a group of wireless devices, and we've got three different types. One is the simplest, and that's when you just have a bunch of computers that have Wi-Fi that can set up their own ad hoc network. You don't need a central controller or anything like that. It's just you can set up from machine to machine using your own wireless adapters. You can set up your own ad hoc network, and that's called an independent basic service set, so IBSS. And that's independent because it's independent of a centralized wireless access point. Then you've got a basic service set. The basic service set is a service set with at least one wireless access point configured with a single SSID. And we haven't talked about SSID. Don't worry, we'll get to that in just a second. But just know that it's at least one WAP configured with a single SSID. And then you've got an extended service set, and that's the service set with at least two WAPs configured with the same SSID. And then we've got the service set identifier that we talked about, the SSID. So SSID, it's a logical identifier or name for a service set. So let's say you're connected to, let's say KCC. We have a network up at KCC. I think it's called CAPCC. So you can connect to CAPCC. And as you wander around, you'll, from building to building, you'll still be on CAPCC. Not because one access point had that range, but because they all are sharing that same SSID, even though you go to different WAPs. So you keep that connectivity, you keep that association as you roam through the complex. So, so going back, the service set identifier, that's the logical name, like CAPCC. And then, yeah, so we're also going to talk about the service set identifiers. So we've got different types. We've got the basic service set identifier, the BSSID, and that's basically the WAP's MAC address that you use to uniquely identify the WAP. So your SSID is identifying the name, the overall name, but the BSSID, that's the actual identifier for the particular WAP that you're connected to at any one time. So as you move, you'll be on the same SSID, but you may switch to another WAP, which is going to mean that you're associated with another BSSID. Then we've got the independent service set identifier, and that's the SSID for an IBSS. So, the IBSS being the ad hoc network. So, so the IBSS is used when two or more wireless devices want to share or transfer files without connecting to a wireless access point provided by an AP. Then we've got the extended service set identifier, the ESSID, and that's a unique name that's assigned to all the BSSs in the network. So an ESSID is used for a wireless network with multiple WAPs. So that's how you maintain the continuity as you go through. So we also have guest access on a WLAN. Guest access is important. You want to be able to allow people, think of any type of a guest situation. Let's say you're at Servco getting your Toyota service. You go in there and there's a waiting room, and they allow you to connect their guest LAN, so you can do whatever while you're waiting for your car to get finished. So you can go in there and use that, but normally they don't just say, here, go for it. Usually a guest account will be open. It's not going to have a password and everything on it. Sometimes it will. Sometimes, though, they have you go to a captive portal. A captive portal is a basic website that'll either have you log in or at least check a box that says, I won't do anything bad on this network that'll bring shame to the company, something like that. So they use a captive portal for that. They can also use geofencing to make sure that the people that are connecting are really guests within that area. They don't want people just coming in from anywhere and being in the building next door and getting access. So that you can do geofencing to make sure that it's only true guests of yours. And again, the captive portal, that's going to be for having people just check off that they agree to a set of things. Or if you've ever been to like the airport, or if you're on a flight going somewhere, you may have to log in and actually say, hey, I'm a member of this, and therefore I can get that free Wi-Fi access. So you have to go through these different things. But yeah, that's it for this lesson. There's a lot to keep in mind. Site surveys are kind of the fun stuff. That's kind of figuring out what your environment looks like, identifying the sources of, the Wi-Fi interference maybe from the neighbors and things like that. But you want to make sure that you can roam and you can stay associated with the network. You use a Wi-Fi analyzer. You use heat maps. Also, in an environment, in a WLAN environment, use controllers. Those controllers could be in a centralized deployment, could be in a distributed deployment, but you always want to do the same things before you deploy anything. You want to make sure you've got the default settings and passwords changed. You want to update all the firmware and software that you can before you send that out into the environment. And you also want to set up an isolated VLAN to do the remote management of those access points. And then we have the alphabet soup of the service set identifiers. So service set being a group of wireless devices. You got your independent basic service set, your basic service set, your extended service set, your service set identifier, your BSSID, your IBSSID, and your ESSID. So learn all of those terms and what they mean and how they relate to each other. And then finally, you've got your guest access, and that's going to incorporate terms like geofencing and captive portals. So that's it for this lesson. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to help. Aloha.